Still waking up, really.
So, what time in here?
The thing is, I'm gonna be embarrassed to tell you because because it's 10 a.m. but I'm just having a really hard Monday morning. I
How
said, I
how
guess.
you manage to wake up early in the morning? Because considering COVID-19, we have late night sleeping and wake up 12 p.m. a.m. or p.m. How you
Yeah, I know. Drugs, I guess. I think this is going to sound like a joke, and it's kind of funny, but it's actually true. Is there's a few of my muscles are atrophying. Actually, I've just been sitting in this friggin' chair for months now, and it's kind of sad. I'll go work on them to get them back at some point, but it's a real thing. I mean, I think I'm gonna have a bed sore on my. I mean, I don't have a bed sore, but I mean, I could from how much I just sit here.
Lee, I just have I have every time I sit there, I have after 1 hour or and a half an hour, I start setting up start considering push-ups. So I can't get tired or some backbone problem of sitting too long in the chair.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Now I'm gonna try to share something with you if I can. I'm gonna maybe I'll just take a quick picture while we're sitting here. I'll take a picture kind of now this is going to make my case even worse, I think. Okay, so I just took a picture. I'm going to bring it up now. Share it. Simon, this isn't. I don't think this is going to work out very well for me. But so if you can see this picture,
that's great.
You would think that I would like get off my butt and maybe move a weight around. Like the thing is right off to the right hand side. You can't see it, but there's an industrial sized treadmill right next to me.
I never even considered this. That's really surprising.
Oh man, guess how many of those weights? All of the weights have dust on them right now. I mean, it's just that's pretty sad.
Remembering these days, I never considered. I always consider few things in my room, but considering COVID-19, I have so many things in my room, considering gyms and all on that. And my family very horrible is trying. Are very honest about that. You are never considering a single thing in your room. It's a full empty. And, that's a huge kind of thing. And also, there's some start here. And if you put more things in your room, you got heated up so nicely.
I know. I've seen some people during the pandemic. They've actually there was the gal who used to run the Docker Captains program. She had her husband had made a small noise canceling room in their garage. So he just built a little box for her to sit in their garage. And yeah, she definitely didn't have anything else in that room. It was a tiny little like telephone booth almost.
But really get surprised by the gym that you show me. That I consider this room you're sitting is so small, but the picture you shows me, that's really surprising.
I know. I maybe I shouldn't. I think Kush has seen a bit of things, but I shouldn't show you the rest because it's well. I don't know how to put it. We have some nice things here, and that's because, well, frankly, because I've worked my tail off over the last 25 years, and it's paid off. But shoot, now I don't use half of it because we're trying to make this a thing. So I think we are making this a thing. By the way, we are. The community and the cadence by which we're doing things, the fact that like in the last, I don't know, the last like 2 months, really, we've had, well, I think like literally maybe 8 repositories created. I mean, so we've created like 2 or 3 new initiatives over and beyond the core Meshery, which is fantastic because, you know, as we move into stuff like WebAssembly or just, you know, other projects, is really good. It's exciting for me. And I know, and when I say that for me, I really mean for us. I've said it to you guys any number of times that like, um, as a matter of fact, I'm not sure that I shared with some of you. There's a young lady who's here studying here in the U.S. Her name's Ishita. Ishita Kumar. She's a really nice gal. She just joined the community not too long ago, just like a couple of weeks ago. But she's not new to the community in that she used Meshery as her final project. She's doing her master's of computer science here in the U.S. She's from India. I forget where, but is doing good things, and the project has already had such an impact on her and what her focus is. So it's really cool. The things that you guys should be proud of, I guess, is what I'm saying. So fair enough. All right, we only have half an hour on this call, so we should get going. I'm going to put a link to the meeting minutes in the chat. And just after I do that, I will say Shridhi is here with us today, which is fantastic. We have a very small call, and actually this call is somewhat intentionally small because it's just very focused on kind of a certain specific area. But Shridhi, I don't know that you've got a chance to meet, be introduced to Gunjan or to Sime, but do you want to say a couple of words just to introduce yourself? So,
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Shruti. I hope to contribute. It's nice meeting all of you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I am hoping you do exactly the same. We're going to talk about some of your area of focus today, I think. So Shridhi, by way of getting to know Sime, Sime is in Pakistan. Gunjan is in India. Gunjan goes to the University of Engineering and Management in Jaipur, and you know Kush already. Sime is a co-lead for this particular meeting, this particular working group. It's the Continuous Integration Working Group. So it focuses on build and release of, well, that's kind of what we were just talking about. It focuses on build and release of Meshery, but anymore, there are a number of other initiatives that have sprouted up as well. And this group and the people within it are instrumental to these other initiatives. I won't list off all the other initiatives, but it's a cross-cutting group, if you will. Rather, all of the things that we do need continuous integration. And for Gunjan and Sime, Shridhi is on her way through her undergraduate studying in computer science in general, studying to do software engineering. And part of her early focus is a bit of front end orientation, and then also a bit of technical writing. Both of those areas are we desperately need more capable people of. So I'm really pleased that she's here. She's also intrigued by and interested in the Google season of Docs, and and the initiatives that are within there. So, so actually, she's jumped into a couple of areas. We're gonna, I think Kush and Shriti are gonna. Sorry, I laughed for a second because I think I've been saying Shriti more than I have Shriti. I'm still working on it.
You've gotten pretty good at it.
Okay. We're going to talk about Slack in a little bit, but let's jump into the topics. Did Kush, is this first one of yours?
I'm thinking to have this topic in the community meeting.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do we want to talk
Like,
earlier?
since this will be making changes in the PR title and the how people are contributing. So we definitely need a wide opinion from the community. Like, do we adhere to this process or should we not?
Yeah. Are there, just to help build up consensus maybe, and to help work through any potential issues, maybe a brief moment on it in this call, and that's to ask everyone on the call if you have any issues with the proposed labels or their use. Some of you are very familiar with this and some of you aren't. For my part, I have no reservation about the use of the labels or the encouragement. It'll take a little while for everyone to get into the habit and the motion of paying attention to the smaller details of when they create an issue or when they create a PR pull request. I consider that it's kind of like signing off your commits. It's one of those things that will sort of always be a perpetual pain point unless we go off and write a DCO specific bot. But even at that, like, people, it's something that people don't always understand. It's the same thing for the finer details on people just not necessarily knowing that one label was more appropriate than the next. Like if there was a feature label and an enhancement label, like, do they really know what the difference is? So I consider that we'll always have a few people in the community who need to be human triagers, people that are reviewing incoming issues, reviewing incoming pull requests, and have to do, while the bots can do a bit of that labeling, and the contributors submitting an issue or submitting a PR can do some of that, inevitably there's some human curation involved.
Also, the discussion about the auto labeling of PR is long due.
And the logic to be included there is based upon changes within certain directories.
So actually, it's still we are not sure that should we go with the directories or should we go by fetching the prefix of the PR title.
Oh,
Like both of the both of the methods have their consequences.
right.
Like fetching the prefix of the PR, it will be some burden on the contributors, and if we are having directories based labels, so like if there's a major PR which involves changes in Meshery CTL as well as some of the changes in handlers, so how are we going to label it, or where will we keep it? Meshery CTL or server? So ultimately, it will need a human triage to see which component it affects more.
And what's the issue? I'm trying to think of a word other than issue, but what's the contention with flag keying off of changes to files in particular directories?
Can you repeat?
Oh, if we build in logic that conditional logic in the CI workflow that flags off of files being changed in a certain directory, what's the negative of doing that approach?
No, if you are talking about the CI, so for the CI we will be considering the metadata, the label metadata. I'm talking about auto labeling of pull request.
Oh,
So for the CI, it is pretty clear that once we have finalized the labels, we can go ahead and finalize like how we want to initiate the CI workflows. But first, we will need to figure out that do we need do we need to have some fixed PR titles, or do we need to do we need to apply labels on the basis of the directories?
Yeah.
So like,
Well, but you can.
this involves major community opinion, like what should be the ideal way.
Okay, but you're not presenting the problem in a way in which I think people can debate over it. So and that's what I'm trying to pull out is like, if the labels are something like the way that we should be using labels as versus titles in a PR, counting on a human to consistently use the same style, grammar, like whether someone did UI colon or square brackets as the label or parentheses as a label, or they spelled out user interface and not UI, or they put area / UI. Like the labels are the way that we want to ideally go because those are discrete. Auto labeling based on directory changes to files in directory, that's a much more clear approach as well, because literally if those files have changed inside of a JavaScript centric directory, they probably need JavaScript changes. If that logic gets it wrong occasionally, it's not the end of the world. If the way that it would be, if the build did too much building, it would just take longer than you would ideally like, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Where the issue comes in is if you have UI changes, for example, but didn't carry that label and instead some Go was built. Well, the issue shouldn't be accepted until, or the PR shouldn't be accepted until, someone goes over and labels it with UI. And every time that a new label is attached, the CI flow should kick off. If we're going to train people to do one thing versus the next, we would want to train people to do labels over PR titles. We do want to train people to do both. Like for the triager and for anyone trying to look up an issue, it's nice when there's consistency in the formatting of the PR title or the issue title. That's nice. It's good. We should do it. But of the things that we programmatically flag, or of the things in which the triage bots go through and do things, those bots are going to be manipulating labels. They're not going to be manipulating, or not successfully manipulating the PR title. I know I stated some of those things that I stated were phrased strongly, but I didn't mean to say any of that with finality. I just that was just an opinion.
No, actually, the directory-based labeling is better than the PR title labeling. Like we can segregate first on the basis of files. Like if a JS file is changed, apply label UI. The only issue we'll be having is when a Golang file is changed. So for the Golang files, we can even segregate directories, but ultimately a reviewer will be reviewing the PRs, so we can definitely change and look out for the labels, like if they are wrong or right.
Oops. Anyone else have, that makes sense to me, Christian? Anyone else have perspective? Think about it a little bit, if you would. The link to that document is right here. Maybe take some time to sort of digest what's going on. If you're looking to digest it in context of the broader picture of all of that we're doing in building and releasing, it would be that you'd want to spend time inside this doc. And Kush, we might have described part of this inside of the build and release strategy doc. If we haven't, this is a good time to articulate part of that vision, sort of the automation of releases, not automation of releases, rather, I guess it's actually automation of builds.
Sure.
Nice. It's coming along very well though, because we're about to the stage where we're going to reap what we've sown in terms of the work. And you're right, like Kush, like over the weekend, I think it was because it was late at night and I had no more brain power left than to do a menial task like just going through and updating all the issue titles to have like UI, CI, whatever was appropriate. And I don't, it's not that I mind doing it, I don't. But ideally we get to a situation where it's more aesthetic than it is anything else. And the reality is, like, if I really do want to find all the UI related things, I really should just click the label and then, because you know, I'm not going to be able to, it's a bit more tough to sort of, I guess I could search like this. Like, I think just almost in all examples, it's so much better to be using labels than, you know, because
Lee, with respect to the continuous integrationist, wanted to confirm, are the releases automatically being there on the layer 5 Meshery documentation? Just want to confirm on that part.
they're not. I thought that they were, but they're not. The release drafter is automatically updating the release, the latest tag. I want to say release tag, but I don't know that you. Anyway, it's difficult because, like, there's a concept called release, there's a concept called tag. I guess I should say release drafter is continually updating the latest draft release, which also contains a tag. But we've yet to get to the point where, and Kush, maybe you can tell us kind of what steps are left to update a markdown file based on when we do a release.
So first of all, if we will fetch the releases from the from the GitHub UI, from the GitHub releases, so the release notes are not automatically in a markdown format. So like
Keep going.
that's one issue which we need to have a look at.
Yep. And what is the format that the format is, I see. You're saying, hey, look, we've gotten some automation going. That automation is whenever a PR is merged in the Meshery repo and maybe the other repos, we're using release drafter to keep track of some notes, but the notes are just they're not in markdown format.
So like if you will just see at the Meshery releases API, the link I just sent in the chat box. So there are no release notes with it. Like some of the repositories were having release notes in the body tag, but in Meshery, the release notes are not being observed in here.
Uh-oh. You're saying, hey, at least this API is not returning draft release notes or release notes at all.
It is not returning release notes at all.
Okay, so if we take like this right here, this URL is to a particular to assets for a given release, and I think that's for the 3.15 release. I'm just assuming. If we were to visit that, I wonder if it gives further detail beyond what we're saying. No release notes here.
Your screen is not visible.
Oh, thank you.
It was stuck at a place.
Sorry, I was wrong browser. I guess the answer is probably here is that, like, there's further investigation needed to be able to retrieve the actual release notes.
So I even saw the official GitHub API, GitHub developer guide. So in the releases API, they were not having a method to get release notes.
That means that Release Drafter is helping us with one aspect. It's helping us draft the release notes, which is what it says. But then the prettifying and the publishing of those notes on Meshery.io and in the Meshery documentation, that's a little bit of a different challenge. Is it possible at the point in time when Release Drafter is doing its thing, maybe that's the point in time in which we could be populating a separate YAML file? So we wouldn't literally be using Release Drafter as much as we would just be using that same CI flow. I'll go. Huh. I'm looking at the right flow, right? Kush, do you remember Release Drafter? It's in our CI. Oh, okay. It's in the one called Release Drafter, huh?
Yes.
Hmm. I wonder if it exposes. So we should probably take a note to investigate whether or not we can be populating another YAML file at the same time. Else, what we would do is something similar to what it is doing, grabbing all the merge pull requests after a certain release. Is that something that anyone wants to look into? Shivai, do you have a branch on the Meshery.io repo?
No, I don't have a branch right now.
Okay. Do you have HTML though, or are you just kind of waiting for the right YAML file?
I do have the HTML created for the releases page, but I haven't populated any content onto that right now.
Okay. This is something okay. Maybe this might be something that Lidor might be interested in, potentially.
So, Kush, you're saying that there's like no reference for like getting all the release drafter notes and getting them into a config .yml. I mean, just a YML file.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wow. We're at the top of I guess very briefly, Shruti and Kush, should we talk about Slacken?
Sure. Can I explain what the problem is?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so for Slack legacy tokens are a requirement, but legacy tokens are not supported by Slack anymore. It only allows the creation of Slack apps, which is not at all the same thing and makes it very complicated to generate API tokens. The invite URLs generated by Slack essentially provide the same thing though. So Slackin has become kind of obsolete. Going back to the original issue though, which was introducing a checkbox for joining the community mailing list, the best possible way that going through all the options is to go with what Kush suggested. That is forking the Slackin or the Slackin extended repo and making changes to that.
Okay. Anybody have a perspective?
So again, since the linked guys are using a custom template page, and like they get my invite, like I think they are using a fork of Slack, Slack in extended. But since the legacy tokens are expired, like they are kind of deprecated by Slack. So like we are not sure like till when we will be able to use them, because right now Slack can provide invitation URL which is valid like for 2000 invitees.
Right. Yeah, and it's not as not. Yeah, right. Does the Slack-in extended, does it also use legacy tokens?
Yes.
Yeah. And did any of you guys happen to search for, or did your searches turn up anything that has a Slack app authentication?
I did. It's a very complicated process, and generating API tokens is much more complex than you'd like it to be. If you need to regenerate it after some time or make changes to the form, it'll be a very long process and not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of makes the whole issue, like when you compare that, the amount of overhead to what we're looking to get, it's like, well, yeah, okay. So the current suggestion is to, because it's a relatively easy thing to get to be, well, okay. So Shruti, I guess there's one further aspect to this that we haven't highlighted just yet, and that is that assuming that we took the Slack-in extended, forked it, added the form, the checkboxes, that once the form is submitted, we'll need a little bit of,
No, I don't have a branch right now.
we'll need another, we'll need to actually take action based on the presence of those checkboxes.
I do have the HTML thread for the releases page, but I haven't populated any content onto that right now.
That's weird. That's amazing. That's amazing that it actually plays back like that. Anyway, yes. So, but I think that we can overcome that. Shruti, it's the service that
Kush,
you're
you think
using
that
right now.
there's
called
like no
Outlook.
reference for like
Is
getting
it a
all the
record?
release draft and
Yeah,
notes
that's
and
amazing
getting them into
the
a
recording is
config .yml. I mean, just a YML file.
is that coming from? Hey, Shiva, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there, Lee.
Okay, weird. Yeah,
What happened?
I don't know. Were you able to record? I don't know. Were you rewatching the recording of the meeting?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. Just never mind. Never mind. I'll explain later. So guys, I guess to wrap this up very quickly, I'm in favor of two things. One, hey, let's just dismiss the issue, say, we would like to have the checkboxes right now. We've got more important things to do. Let's figure out something later. Or we could say, hey, look, let's go ahead and invest a little bit. I don't know what Slack's plan is for turning off the legacy tokens. I do know that Shruti and Kush, that we do have other use cases for programmatically interacting with Slack beyond just letting people sign up in a nice form. We also want to do, I mean, so I guess what I'm alluding to is that, like, hey, if we end up getting deep into if we have having a Slack app or a Slack app, if we end up building off of that, like, there might be some interesting things to do. The reason that I'm hesitant is because for me personally, I hate to ask something of you, Shridhi, that I might not be able to spend that much time helping you on, because it's a nice to have, and I'll end up having to spend time elsewhere, and I don't want you to have a bad experience. I would say that, like, hey, it doesn't hurt anything. I mean, Shridhi, if you were to do what was suggested, fork Slack and Extended, put in the two forums, take a quick peek at how you can interface with MailChimp to just programmatically sign someone up. And then that's it. Like, if you get the whole thing working, we can just swap it in and leave it for however long Slack supports legacy tokens. And at that point, we're going to have to deal with it anyway. We would have had to dealt with that anyway.
Sure, I could give it a try.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Okay. We're a little over time, so we want to talk about on that. And who's, I can follow up with someone offline on this. Is this yours, Kush?
So actually, Harsh was planning to join, so I just added the agenda for him. I think he didn't join the call.
Okay, Harsh. Okay, fair enough. Does anyone have anything else today?
Lee, after this call, did you have enough time? We can talk some to-dos item that I want to discuss with you separately.
Okay. Sounds good. Right. Work Slack and Extended and attempt, I guess, a MailChimp sign up. Okay, thank you, everyone.
So, just a moment here. Why don't we fork Slacken? Like, Slacken Extended is again a fork of Slacken and again a fork of Slacken. So it will be better if we just directly go fork and Slacken.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Shridhi, any perspective there?
We could fork either of the two, but Slack and Extended has slightly more features, I guess.
There's
Can I
only
get back to you on that? I haven't researched.
There's only color scheme customization on the landing page in the Slack and Extended.
All right then, Slacken sounds as good as Slack and Extended then.
All right. And it sounds like probably, unless Slacken moves to an app-based exchange authentication, at some point it'll go away anyway. So, Okay. I think that's probably about it. Same time next week for this call. All right. See you guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, guys. Bye, Gunjan.
Bye.